Section 2, OSHA Requirements. In this section, we'll cover OSHA design and construction requirements, load capacities, maintenance requirements, protections against contact with power lines. All of this safety information is important because it helps you understand the protections built into aerial lift equipment and OSHA requirements for the equipment. Know your equipment. Before using any type of aerial lift, it is very important to become familiar with the equipment. Warnings, cautions, and restrictions. Look for warnings, cautions, and restrictions. Following these instructions will help you operate the equipment safely. Manufacturer's information. Manufacturer's information such as the name, address, and phone number of the manufacturer and the equipment model can help you obtain more information about safe operation, maintenance, or repair of the equipment. Operating and Maintenance Manual. Remember, you should always become familiar with the operating and maintenance manual before actually using any equipment with an aerial lift. Take the time to read the manual carefully and get to know the equipment completely. It's time well spent. Rated workload. You should also know the rated workload of the equipment. This information will be posted right on the equipment itself. Knowing the rated workload will help prevent tip-overs. Some aerial lifts, for example, are only designed to hold the weight of 1 or 2 workers. They may not have the additional capacity to take on a load of material, tools, and so on when they are fully extended. Maximum platform height. The maximum platform height will also be posted on the equipment. Equipment can have different maximum heights depending on whether outrigger devices or stabilizers are used. Always check for maximum height. Even if you've used other equipment, the equipment you're using now could be different. Never exceed maximum platform heights. Electrical insulation and level of protection. Aerial lifts may also be marked with a statement that indicates whether the work platform is electrically insulated, and if so, the level of protection the insulation provides. You should be careful to keep aerial lifts away from power lines anyway, but be extra careful if the platform is not insulated. Test operate the equipment. Always be sure to test operate the aerial lift. Be sure you can operate it without jerky motions, which may cause accidents. Drainage holes. Finally, be sure the aerial lift has drainage holes so rainwater does not accumulate. Be sure the drainage holes are not blocked. Equipment construction and design requirements. OSHA requires equipment with aerial lifts to be designed and constructed according to certain standards. Equipment should protect the worker in the lift by providing fail-safe mechanisms that will prevent a free-fall descent of the work platform. Electrical equipment must meet specific standards, especially if the elevation of the platform is accomplished by an electromechanical assembly. Hydraulic and pneumatic components must meet bursting safety factor standards to prevent failure of hoses or other equipment. Welds of all components must meet specific standards, especially welds on booms and work platforms. Cables that are used in the hoist system must also meet certain requirements and have a broken cable safety device that prevents free fall. Tip for workers who work in aerial lifts or near them on the ground. Think about the design features on the equipment you use and how these features help protect you from accidents and injuries. Load capacity requirements. The rated workload capacity must be clearly displayed on the work platform. Most aerial lifts have a single capacity listed because the equipment is fairly simple. Some of the more complex aerial lift devices have multiple configurations, each requiring a different workload rating. Be sure to review the workload for various configurations and never exceed the load capacity indicated. Outriggers extended versus not extended. Equipment with outriggers or stabilizers will have a different rating depending on whether the outriggers are extended. Obviously, the workload will be higher if the stabilizers are extended. Large work platform versus small platform. Some equipment permits the use of different sizes of work platforms, for example large or small, so the workload must be listed for each type of work platform. Boom elevated versus boom lowered. Some equipment might have different rated workloads that depend on the angle of the boom. If the boom is elevated straight up, the equipment can handle more weight. If the boom is at a low angle, the equipment is more likely to tip over, so the rated capacity is less. If this is the case, the equipment must have a boom angle indicator located where the operator and the lift can monitor the angle. Boom retracted versus boom extended. The rated workload may also depend on whether the boom is extended or retracted. When the boom is extended, the workload is reduced. Interlock devices. Many aerial lifts are designed with interlock devices that help prevent an operator from accidentally exceeding the stability requirements of the equipment and tipping over. Driving interlock. A common interlock device which prevents the unit from moving or being driven unless the platform height or platform configuration is adjusted to meet stability requirements. In other words, the platform will need to be lowered before the equipment can be moved. Outrigger interlock. Outrigger interlocks prevent the lift from being raised above the height at which an outrigger stabilizer or extendable axle is required to maintain stability. Outrigger interlocks also prevent the stabilizer or outrigger from being retracted while the platform is above specific heights. Tilt interlocks prevent aerial lifts from being raised when the base of the unit is not on level ground and exceeds a certain angle, such as 5 degrees. Maintenance of equipment. Maintenance of equipment is another critical safety issue. Equipment with aerial lifts must be inspected on a daily basis. Equipment must be maintained and repaired according to the manufacturer's instructions. Any equipment found not to be in safe operating condition, either during an inspection or during operation, must be immediately removed from service until repairs are made. This includes leaking hydraulics, frayed or cut hydraulic lines, and frayed wires. All repairs to equipment must be made by qualified maintenance personnel with the necessary training and experience to perform the work. Tip for workers who work in aerial lifts or near them on the ground. Are you familiar with maintenance requirements for the aerial lifts you use? Even if you are not responsible for maintenance and repairs on equipment, you should know about maintenance schedules and requirements. Lift safety features. OSHA requires that all aerial lifts have certain safety features. The lift must have skid-resistant stepping, standing, and working surfaces. Slip-resistant surfaces. The access way for entering and exiting the aerial lift, including any rungs or steps, must have slip-resistant surfaces. Guardrail. The sides or top guardrail above the lift must be between 38 and 45 inches high to prevent the worker from falling out. Clear of debris. The lift must be kept clear of debris, garbage, unneeded tools, grease, and any other items that could get in the way of the work, as well as create slip or trip hazards. Attachment points. Aerial lifts must also have attachment points for a full-body harness and lanyard for each person who occupies the work platform. Aerial lift controls. Aerial lifts with articulating or extendable booms must have controls both in or near the lift and lower down on the vehicle. The upper controls must be inside or beside the lift so that they are within easy reach of the operator. All controls must be plainly marked as to their function. The lower controls on the vehicle must be designed to be able to override the lift controls in case of an emergency in which the worker in the lift is unable to operate the lift controls. In the case of emergencies, lower controls should only be operated with permission from the worker in the lift. Protection against contact with power lines. Contact with power lines is one of the most dangerous hazards associated with working in aerial lifts. Specifications attached to your aerial lift will indicate whether it is insulated against electricity. If so, it will have insulated equipment that must be checked on a regular basis. Always inspect insulating devices to make sure they are in good condition in case you accidentally get too close to power lines. Insulated portions of lifts and booms. Make sure the insulated portion of lifts and booms are not altered in any way that could reduce insulating value. Other insulating devices. In addition to the insulated portion of the equipment, other insulating devices should be checked, including insulating blankets, covers, line hose, gloves, sleeve, and so on. Inspection. Inspect these items for holes, tears, embedded objects, swelling, softening, hardening, stickiness, inelasticity, or any other unusual signs of potential damage. Damage to insulating devices. Damage to insulating devices can be caused by sunlight, temperature extremes, contact with corrosive materials and solvents, and even humidity. Section Summary. In this section, we've looked at aerial lift hazards, OSHA design and construction requirements, load capacity, maintenance requirements, protections against contact with power lines. All of this safety information is important because it helps you understand the protections built into aerial lift equipment and OSHA requirements for the equipment.